Welcome to another episode of Purpose Today. I'm your host, Dr. April Dobson, and I'm very excited that on this evening we have the opportunity to continue in the Career Clarity series, and specifically part two of our session from this morning. We were live earlier today for Purpose Aligned Career. I want a promotion. And I wanted you all to think about whether or not you're prepared for the promotion that you desire. And any promotion that you desire is not going to happen by coincidence. It's not going to happen haphazardly, but there are certain steps that you need to take if you want to position yourself for a promotion. And so on this morning at 9 a.m. Eastern, many of you joined and you asked so many questions, and I didn't have an opportunity to fully answer all of those questions. So on this evening, we are going to have a live question and answer session regarding Purpose Aligned Career. I want a promotion. So this is a part two, and I don't want you to go anywhere. I want you to stay tuned. Share this live with your friends, your family, your colleagues, someone who you know desires a promotion. And we're going to be right back after these sponsorship messages. And if you stick around, you can ask your questions in the chat live. So if you are joining from YouTube on the at Dr. April D. Dobson YouTube, on the LinkedIn, or on Facebook, I do encourage you to transition over to the at Dr. April D. Dobson YouTube page. Put your questions and your comments in the chat. Would love to engage with you. So stay tuned. Be sure to ask all your questions, and we'll pick up where we left off this morning after these special sponsorship messages.
Dreaming of writing a book, launching a podcast, or creating a digital course? Ready to finally align your career, creativity, and impact? The Purpose Aligned Life Premium Coaching Cohort is here to help you turn purpose into reality. You'll receive tailored services, a personalized one-on-one assessment, 10 weekly group sessions, and exclusive strategy session, all for your desired transformation.
And if you are interested in registering for the next Purpose Aligned Life Premium Group Coaching Program, I invite you to utilize the link in the chat to schedule your Zoom interest meeting for the next cohort of the Purpose Aligned Life Premium Group Coaching Program. Now, I know this morning we had many questions that were coming in on YouTube. You had questions about promotions. You had questions about intentionally positioning yourself for a promotion. And so I want to encourage you that if you missed this morning, I will be sure to bring you up to speed on what you missed this morning as we talked about I want a promotion. And I'll be sure to give you strategies that you need that will ensure you are for 6. You haven't taken out your iPad, opened a note on your laptop, whatever it is that you use for your notes, please go ahead and do so. I encourage you to do that because it's going to be very helpful for you. And we are going to jump back in, and if you were able to tune in this morning, I do ask that you put in a key takeaway that you had, and be sure to hit the subscribe button if you haven't already done so. So we're going to go ahead and jump right in, because if you missed earlier today, if you missed this morning, we're going to jump right in and I'll bring you up to speed in case you missed out this morning. So we talked about questions that you need to ask yourself, and those questions are going to help to ensure that you're effectively positioned to receive a promotion. And so we'll take a look at those. So one of the first things that you want to do is you want to ask yourself, why is it that you want a promotion? So going into your motive, looking at your why, this is going to also help you to focus your efforts. This is going to allow you to ensure that as there are opportunities that surface, you can go back to your why and you can assess whether or not it's something that you need to pursue or something that you need to pass on. Now, another action that you want to be sure to take is you want to ask yourself, how can you better align with purpose? And if you are someone who is already aligned with purpose and you want to better align with purpose, before applying for any promotions, you want to ask yourself that valuable question. It's key to do so. And when you're asking how you can better align with purpose, it will be good to ask yourself, how are you currently aligned with purpose? What is it that you are doing that is aligned? What are you doing that's not aligned? What are some opportunity areas for you? And that is going to help to ensure you are positioned to. Now, I want to also bring to your remembrance, if you were here, if you watched earlier today, you want to ask yourself the question about how you can serve and who can you serve. So you want to think about what type of problem do you want to solve and who are the people, the category of people who will need you to serve them. So you do want to think about who you want to serve. That is vital. And then you want to also think about what type of impact do you want to make. And when you're thinking about the impact that you want to make, some of the things that you can think about is the solutions that you want to bring. What kind of problems do you want to solve? And you want to also think about what level you desire to make an impact. That is very important. So when we talk about the level of impact that you want to make, are you making an impact in local government? Are you making an impact at the state level? Do you want to make an impact at the national level for your country? Would you like to make a multinational impact, an impact that impacts many nations and impacts many countries? These are things that you want to think about, and you want to assess how you can bring solutions to people who you want to help. This is all very, very, very important. So I want to encourage you to answer all of these questions first, because this is a foundation that you are going to need that will help you with the positioning. So after you've answered all of these questions, as we talked about earlier today, you want to be sure to think about, as you have identified how you can better align with purpose, what does that look like? And if you know that your desire is to make a greater impact, and I used an example earlier today about a past client who was in healthcare. This client had been in leadership in prior opportunities, but knew that it was time to step into leadership at, in the current industry and in the current role. And so that client was able to focus efforts after, receiving advice, listening to the advice, was able to be successful in receiving a promotion. Now, we talked a little bit about this earlier today, but I also want to bring to mind Psalm chapter 75 and 6 through 7. And I talked earlier about ensuring that you start with prayer. And Psalm 75 and 6 through 7 says, "For promotion cometh neither from the east nor from the west nor from the south, but God is the judge. He putteth down one and setteth up another." And so all promotions come from God. So we do want to pray and seek His guidance, pray and allow God to lead and guide us in everything that we're doing. And He can actually reveal to us opportunities that we may not have even been privy to. He particular individual. He might, a certain job board, whatever the case may be. So you want to be sure that you're starting there, that you're starting with prayer. And so I know that it is important to ensure that we're trusting in God and what we do, that we're allowing Him to lead and guide us in everything that we're doing, and that we're acknowledging Him so that He can direct our paths. And that scripture is on the screen, Psalm 75 and 6 through 7. That is the King James Version. So we talked earlier today about how you can effectively and efficiently work to look for opportunities. And once you've answered all of those questions, it gives you parameters that you can use for your search to look for opportunities, because there very well could be opportunities that you're not privy to. And so you want to be sure that you are doing your due diligence. And I talked earlier about informational interviews. I talked about also networking with individuals who you have built a relationship with. And it's all about relationship building. So just as you are networking and opportunities are being shared with you, you should also be a giver as well. So if you know of opportunities that are available, you want to share those with people who you know, share those with people in your network. And you want to be sure that as you continue to build relationships, you find ways that you can also serve others, not just in the areas that you're wanting to serve others professionally, but also serving people through volunteer opportunities and serving people when there's something that you have to offer. And even when you have insight on opportunities, you want to be sure to share those opportunities as well. Now, we talked about being able to revise your LinkedIn profile, revising your resume, and we talked about strategies that you can do that to position yourself for promotions. Now, I want to encourage you to do a thorough analysis of what is needed for the direction that you're heading and the promotion that you're desiring, to ensure that you have that appropriately reflected in your resume and appropriately reflected in your LinkedIn. I want to talk a little visibility. We talked a little bit about visibility earlier. We didn't fully uncover the importance of visibility. When you are ensuring that your job search materials, your biography, your cover letter, your LinkedIn profile, your portfolio, all of your online profiles are aligned with what your desired outcomes are. After you've answered these questions, of course, you discovered what ways you can better align with purpose. So I talked earlier about being able to create quantitative and qualitative insight in your achievements of your resume and your LinkedIn profile, so people can easily see what value you would bring to their organization. And there are recruiters who look for professionals for opportunities that are in their organizations. And sometimes it's before those opportunities are even posted on a job board or on their company's website. So if you've clearly articulated your experience, your skills, your achievements, what you bring to the table, and the value that you bring, it'll be easier for recruiters and hiring officials to note that in your resume, in your LinkedIn profile, and in your LinkedIn profile be able to reach out to you proactively and preemptively to offer insights on upcoming opportunities. Now, I want to go to the questions from this morning because there was a question that I wasn't able to fully answer this morning. And it was a question that was asked by Adventure Show. And the question was, should you ask for a promotion directly or first ask for feedback about your readiness? And here's the thing. You do want to ask the right questions as it relates to promotions. You do want to make it known that you have an interest. So I do want to share that if you have a question in terms of promotions, as you know, Adventure Show asked, Adventure Show said, should you ask for a promotion directly? What you want to do is you want to ask, what are the requirements for promotions within your organization? What are the requirements for career advancement? Because you want to find out what those requirements are, because that gives you clear insight. Now, I didn't share this earlier, but I recommend anytime you're starting a new position during the orientation, when you're obtaining clarity on your role, when you're obtaining clarity on expectations, that is a good time to ask. Let them know that your commitment is to learning your role, being able to have success and excel and be excellent in your role. But you also want clarity on what the requirements are for internal promotion, for advancements within the company, so that you know what they are. Oftentimes, promotions internally are tied to performance. Sometimes there's a structure that has to do with seniority. There's different requirements for every organization, but ultimately, if you are excelling, if you are bringing value, if you are solving problems for your organization, oftentimes that is going to be noticed. But going back to the question that was asked this morning in this morning's live, you want to find out what the framework is, what the requirements are, in general, right? You don't want to necessarily say, I want a promotion, what do I need to do? You want to find out what the requirements are. Additionally, it is good to ensure that you are keeping your supervisor and anyone who is in your leadership chain that deals with your performance rating and your performance evaluation, that you're keeping them abreast on the development that you're doing, that you're keeping them abreast on the status of projects that you're working on. Even as you're continuing to lead others and develop others, you want to have some mechanism that you're sharing that. Oftentimes, there may be things, especially if you're a person who's not one to boast about your efforts, they may not be aware of everything that you're doing and all of the impact that you're making. So it's very important that you find a mechanism to ensure that you are briefing and informing whoever is your rater on what you're doing, right? And the other thing that you want to do is, most companies have a career page. There are many companies who have an internal and an external vacancy list. They have announcements that are posted internally and externally. Some companies have all of the vacancies on one platform. So you want to periodically take a look at what is available. But if you know you are ready for a promotion, you do want to ask those questions. Also, if you have a mentor or a coach, you want to sit down and talk with them. Tell them what your intent is. We talked about those questions, and I'm going to put those back on the screen again for those who may have missed this morning or who may have joined tonight a little late, so that you're aware of what those questions are. But once you've answered those questions, you want to be able to succinctly be able to state what your desires are, what you want to achieve, so that people who you're building relationships with will be able to provide support and assistance in the ways that they can. So again, you want to ask yourself, why do I want a promotion? How can I better align with purpose and passion? It doesn't say passion, but there was limited space. Who do I want to serve? What do I want to make? So when you answer all these questions, you can go to your mentor, your coach, you can go to whoever is providing you with some career advice and career guidance, and you can say, I know that I have been, successful in my current role. I have ensured that I have developed others to do what, I'm currently doing. And I do believe that I can lead at a greater level. I do believe that I can serve at a greater level. And, this is what my purpose is. I believe I can better align with purpose in a greater capacity. Here's how I've, determined that I would like to do that. Here's, the type of people, the group of people. Here's who I want to serve. Here's the type of impact that I want to make. And here's the level of impact that I want to make. What would you advise, right? And so also informational interviews will be very helpful. And so I do believe that using these approaches will help you updating your LinkedIn profile, your resume, your cover letter, your biography, your professional biography, and your portfolio and your job search materials is going to help to position you. And so I see the comment from Adventure Show, great show. The focus on purpose aligned promotions is so valuable. Thank you. And Adventure Show, I hope I answered the question fully that you asked earlier today, this morning, in this morning's session. So please let me know if there's any information gaps or anything else that you would like to know. But you certainly want to receive feedback on your readiness. I remember before I retired from the Internal Revenue Service that they have an LSR, a leadership succession review. And so you have an opportunity to have an assessment from your immediate supervisor and the person who rates your immediate supervisor on your readiness for leadership. And I, as a supervisor, provided an assessment for several individuals who I supervised. And I also, before going into a supervisory role at that particular bureau and within Treasury, had to complete an LSR. And when I worked at the Department of the Air Force, that wasn't something that was required before going into a supervisory role. So every company, every agency might have they may have different requirements. You definitely want to know what's required. And some companies have a certain cycle that those requirements must be met within. So you do want to do your due diligence. And I'm looking to see if there are any other questions from this morning that I'm next level. Thank you so much for that, Adam. And I see James has a question. I'm curious, how can someone overcome self-doubt when pursuing a higher role? Great question, James. I do believe that positive affirmation is a great way to overcome self-doubt. And I know, being a woman of faith, that we can and understanding who we are, who God has created us to be, knowing that we were created in the image and likeness of God, knowing that promotions come from God. So we can make those declarations, and we can also use positive affirmations to help us. And I know that I, shared earlier about the scripture in Psalm. So I think positive affirmations, prayer, using and applying, scripture that is relevant for what you're desiring to do, that will help to increase your confidence and allow you to overcome self-doubt. Another thing that you can do as a professional is you can request a 360 from colleagues, from people who know you well. And if they do a 360 and give you feedback, if you ask questions about, what are the leadership traits that you see in me? What are the skills that you have observed that I possess that I can use to serve people at an even greater level? What are opportunities of growth for me? And what are areas that you see would be ideal for my next leadership level? And what is something that you've seen that I have done that would, benefit and can impact people on a greater level? Asking questions like this can also help to give you awareness about more of your strengths and help to eliminate self-doubt. But it's so important that you speak well to yourself and that you're kind to yourself and that you actually sit down. And I encourage everyone tonight, as you're in this live, write down 5 things about yourself that you love and appreciate. And then once you do that, I want you to write down 3 leadership traits that you exhibit and how you might be able to help more people and solve more problems using those 3 leadership traits and using the 5 things that you love about yourself. Doing that practical exercise can be very, very helpful and very beneficial. So I do encourage all of you to do that exercise and also make it a practice to have positive affirmations each day and to also find Bible verses that speak to what you are desiring to do and making those proclamations and declarations. So great question, James. I do appreciate you asking that. And, as I shared earlier, again, promotion comes from God, and I'll put it on the screen. Psalm 75 and 6 through 7, for promotion cometh neither from the east nor from the west nor from the south, but God is the judge. He putteth down one and setteth up another. So promotions come from God, and it's so important to know that when you are promoted to another position, it gives you an opportunity to serve people at a greater level. It gives you an opportunity to make a greater impact. So you want to always keep those things in mind as you're looking for and preparing for a promotion. So I see there is Mac has said this conversation is packed with practical wisdom. Great job, Dr. April. Thank you so much for that, Mac. I appreciate that compliment. Leia Film Law, I probably should put my glasses on. Leia Film Law says, great insights. Knowing your value seems like such a critical part of promotion. Yes, you have to know your value, because when you're in an interview, you're going to be asked questions that are going to require that you speak to the value that you bring. And you also want to know your value so that you are articulating your value on LinkedIn, on your online profiles, and that you're articulating the value that you bring within your resume. Typically, you only have 6 to 10 seconds to convince the reader of your resume to keep reading. And so it's important that you articulate your value within your summary or your profile statement in your resume. So it's important to ensure that you're doing so and you're doing it effectively. So Leah, I love this question. What's the best way to ask for a promotion without sounding demanding? So here's my perspective, Leah. When you're in a place where you are valued and your expertise is valued, you won't even have to ask for a promotion. You can actually express that, as I shared earlier, that you have began developing others, you've developed someone for your role, you know that you are positioned to lead at a greater capacity, you know that your purpose is, and I'll just use mine for example, helping professionals with strategies to align with their purpose in their life, their career, or their business, and you want to serve professionals at a greater capacity. You have a desire to, make an impact at the national level or make a global impact or whatever the case may be. You share that and you ask the question, what do you believe, I can do to better position myself for that? And asking that kind of question, the individual will actually tell you that they believe that you're already ready. I remember when I was at my last agency in the federal government before I retired, and I was in a senior human resources specialist role. I had previously been a supervisor. I had been in a chief at a prior agency. And I really wasn't interested at the time in applying for a supervisory position, but I was approached and encouraged to start applying for supervisory opportunities, and there was an opportunity that was going to be coming available, and I was encouraged to apply. So I'm telling you, if you are showing your value, and if you even ask the question that I just mentioned, it's very likely that you're going to be told that you are ready for a promotion. And often it's just that, the right people aren't aware that you're looking for a promotion. And you also want to talk with people who you've built relationships with, let them know what your heart is, what your desire is, and ask them, what their recommendations are. Often they will share opportunities with you. They will often send opportunities to you because they know your value. So great question, Leah. So Richard asked, how can someone position themselves for promotion when there's strong competition? So one of the things that I would say, Richard, is that one of the things that you can do when there's strong competition is you ensure that you're standing out by showing your unique skills, your unique experience, your unique purpose, value, impact. And what I mean when I say purpose, value, impact, you take what your purpose is and what your purpose aligned outcome is, and you think about, the people who you want to serve. You think about the types of problems you want to solve. You think about the type of impact that you want to make. And then you reflect on how you've already impacted people, how you've already solved problems, how you've already been able to make an impact. And you ensure that from a qualitative and a quantitative standpoint that is articulated in your resume and that it's articulated in your LinkedIn profile and your all your other online profiles, professional online profiles, and your job search materials. That is what's going to help you to stand out. What's going to also help you to stand out is how you answer questions in an interview. When you interview, you're not simply giving a list of things that you've done. You're giving You're presenting your purpose, value, impact, as I just mentioned. And when you're doing that, when you're answering the questions, you can choose many approaches to answer, many models to answer, should I say. But you could either use the situation, task, action, result. That's what many people use when you're giving your answer, which is you talk about the situation, the task that you had at hand, the action that you took, and the results. How did you help to save the organization money? How did you help to substantially increase revenue? How did you help to impact people? All of these things, right? You could also use the CAR method in your resume and in your interview. What was the challenge that you or the organization faced? What actions did you take, and what was the result, right? You want to ensure any results that you give are qualitative and quantitative. And then you could use the SOAR method. What was the situation? What were the obstacles that you faced? What were the actions that you took? What were the results, right? Results having the same model, right? Or you could use the CAR method, which is context, what was going on, what was the challenge that you faced, what actions did you take, and what were the results of the organization. So if you're able to use either of those models or a combination of those models in your resume and in your interview to be able to show the value, that's going to help you to stand out against any strong competition. Keep in mind too that, and I said this earlier today, your leadership traits are so important when you're applying for a promotion. It's not about the technical skills all being there. There's, yes, some technical skills that you should have, but when you look at leadership opportunities, organizations want to see that you have the necessary leadership traits. Are you an effective communicator, orally and in writing? Can you lead people well? Are you able to lead change efforts, right? Are you able to create an environment where you are facilitating results, fostering results? Are you able to lead an organization with, from a fiscal management perspective? How are you able to lead from a human capital management perspective? All of these things are relevant for executives in the federal government, but they're also relevant in the private sector and in the nonprofit sector. And so these are things that you want to ensure that you have developed yourself, and that you're displaying these in your resume, in your LinkedIn profile, and in any of the job search materials and online profiles that you have. So thank you so much, Jack, for that compliment and for viewing today. And thank you so very much, Papa Lens, for viewing and for that compliment that this is a great discussion and you're taking notes from this one. I do want to thank all of you for tuning in on today. I think that's about all the time that we have today. Thank you for all the amazing questions. If you have a desire to ensure, because we're doing this career clarity series, but if you have a desire to ensure that you're not missing any insight on this career clarity series and any other valuable resources that are available, I do encourage you to use the link that I just dropped in the chat. It may still be coming through on some of the platforms. I see it's on Facebook now. It's on both YouTube. I don't think that it updated on LinkedIn, but if you go to that link, and it's a really short electronic form, you can include your name, your email address. It's a very, very, very short form that will, and your phone number. And if you want to put your organization, you can put your organization. It's not mandatory. But if you fill out that and join our email list, you'll receive resources, you'll receive the electronic newsletter, and you'll also receive periodic updates on episodes. And if you haven't subscribed on the Dr. April D. Dobson YouTube channel, I do invite you to do that as well. And I just want to thank you all again for these amazing questions that you've asked. Thank you all for your engagement. I do value all of you. I don't take it for granted that you all are tuning in on a Thursday evening, especially considering that I had a live earlier today. So I appreciate all of you tuning in to this episode of the Purpose Today with Dr. April Dobson podcast, as we've done part 2 of Purpose Aligned Career, I Want a Promotion, and we focused on questions and answers on this evening. And finally, there is a promotional video that will share insight on the Purpose Aligned Life Premium Group Coaching Program. That program allows you to have partnership and accountability and accelerate your timeline for authoring a book, for launching a podcast, and creating a coaching program. So if you're interested, there's a promotional video that will play at the end. I will also drop that link in the chat. So if you're interested in scheduling a Zoom, if you are interested in scheduling a Zoom for more information on the next cohort and how the your needs and how the Purpose Aligned Life Premium Group Coaching Program may benefit you, that link is in the chat. So thank you all for tuning in. I invite you to tune in next week for another episode. We'll have 2 different episodes of the Purpose Today with Dr. April Dobson podcast on next week. We have one on Tuesday, the 1st of September, and one on Thursday, the 3rd of September. And so on Tuesday, the 1st of September, I'm super excited because we're continuing in our Career Clarity series, and I'm so excited because each time we're talking about topics that will help you in your career. So on Tuesday, the 1st of September at 9 a.m. Eastern Time, we are having episode 71, Purpose Aligned Career, I Need a Mentor. So if you're someone who you need a mentor, you have a mentor, but you need additional mentors, I think you should always have at least 2 mentors, but preferably 3 or 4 mentors, but always have at least 2 mentors. Then this episode 71, is for you, because we're going to talk about how to position yourself for mentorship, how to find the right mentor, how to navigate through sessions with your mentor and optimize your sessions for continued growth and success, and so many other things related to having a mentor. And so you don't want to miss that episode. But thank you all for tuning in to this episode of Purpose Today with Dr. April Dobson. I encourage you to stay purpose today and every day, and I hope you all have an amazing weekend, and I look forward to seeing you all on next week. So we have one final sponsorship message, and I look forward to seeing you all on next week. Have an amazing evening and a wonderful purpose-filled rest of the week, and an amazing weekend.
Dreaming of writing a book, launching a podcast, or creating a digital course? Ready to finally align your career, creativity, and impact? The Purpose Aligned Life Premium Coaching Cohort is here to help you turn purpose into reality. You'll receive tailored services, a personalized one-on-one assessment, 10 weekly group sessions, and exclusive strategy session, all for your desired transformation.